Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you guys my Cardfight Vanguard Nubatama Afterimage deck profile for February 2018. This is the one Nubatama deck that I felt was kind of overshadowed when Dominate became a thing. We did get some support for the Afterimage deck, but like I said, overshadowed by Dominate completely in comparison to the pack releases. But I still went around and decided to build a deck for it. It's definitely one of the more price easy decks if you don't want to go the full heavy stride zone, because the rest of the deck is quite easy to pick up. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. Alright, now the whole point, if you don't know, of Afterimage is returning cards to your hand from your field after you use them for the turn. And the big point of the deck is to limit your opponent's hand size to almost near nothing, so you can go for your big plays from then. So to start off, I run 4 Atoga Lord. This was the big card in the deck for limiting your opponent and gaining an extra critical when they had 3 or less cards in hand. So he gets that extra critical, and he just has that pressure of binding a card from your opponent's hand. So when he basically attacks. So it's super powerful if you can get off the rest of your effects in the turn to limit and bind cards from their hand to the field, because the bind effect was, like I also said, a big part of it before Dominate. Just for a small little addition with the Dominate is 2 Magun Tembu. Now, I just run the 2 of this for a quick turn 1 GB2 if need be, because if you know you're not going to be ready with stride resources for the next couple turns, you still want to have your GB2 for your main unit, which is the Shiranui grade 3. So 2 Magun Tembu, just like I said, for that first turn GB2 effect. And I also run 1 Sukomura Rakan. Basically just one of this because I only have the one. If I did have another one, I'll show what I would take out for it. But it's another hand limit card effect, which is just too good. Make use of it with Shiranui as well, and you can completely cripple your opponent and their hand. So pretty standard there. And for the one-ofs, I also run 1 Gon Rakan, 1 Zarmer Rakan, and 1 Hayokujikiri Rakan. Sorry if I completely butchered the names. But these, along with the one that I forgot, which is Joruri Rakan, just the one-ups for different situations that you might have with this deck, depending on what your opponent's field and hand are comprised of, meaning like that could decide which one you want to go into for that stride. If you don't feel confident for the Atoga Lord play just yet, because most of the time you'll go for that for the kill, obviously. And lastly, for the strides, 1 Rukushi Kiri Rakan. Like I said, these names are extremely difficult with that pronunciation, but this is your GB8 with the guard effect. Too good for just a counterblast or soul blast. If you do every time your opponent chooses 2 cards from his or her hand and discards them whenever your opponent unit is placed on guard circle from the hand. So quite crazy for limiting down their hand to what it could be. And for the G-Guardians, I also run 2 Gahor Rakan. This is the Dominate G-Guardian, but also takes up one of your opponent's grade 1s in the back row for Domination Shield. So pretty good on that part. And also 1 Zashiki Hime for the unflipped G-Guard power effect. If your opponent doesn't discard, her shield just gets even bigger. And 1 Abudataishi G-Guardian to wrap up the G-Guardians for the deck. If I were to run a second I think it's Sukumura Rakan, that's it. If I were to run a second one of this, I would most likely, of all of them, probably take out the Gon Rakan. And if I wanted to run a second Zashiki Hime, I'd probably take out the Zarame Rakan. Take these 2 out for those 2 plays, just for their faster bind effects that you make use of. And now moving on to the main deck, I run 4 of the old Shiranui. This card, mostly because the new Shiranui, and most likely the one we'll be getting after that, both rely on Dominate effects. This one is the hand limit one, so this one always stuck with to me as the Afterimage Shiranui. And using this with the Break Ride, which I also run as backup, which is Kujikiri Kongo. 4 of this with the Break Ride technique, very powerful, especially. getting this on Vanguard, then going into Shiranui, because that Break Ride effect already takes effect during the ride, so then you'll get the discard on the bind for your opponent, and then you can make use of Shiranui's Stride. So it's basically a Break Ride that you're not missing your chance with when you stride, because the effect's already been taken care of. And moving on to the grade 2s, I run 4, Tamahagane. This is a great early game bind power unit, mostly because I run of our starter, which is Kuroko, the one that you Soul Blast to put 2 cards in the bind zone to really cripple your opponent's hand. So early game bind power is a big key play with this deck as well. And I also run 4 of the new Stealth Dragon Hujin. This card is a GB1. When this unit is placed on rear, your opponent chooses a card from his or her bind zone, puts it into the drop zone. If there's a card in your opponent's bind zone, this unit gets plus 3,000 to the end of the turn. This comboed with Tamahagane and your other bind effects is way, way too good. Taking care of a lot of your opponent's key cards with this, just for the GB1, which is easy to achieve with this deck. And then the plus 3 if they have any extra, making it a 12k on its own if you don't have the boost for it. And lastly, I run 3 Stealth Dragon Nibi Katabira. I'm gonna, shoot myself at the end of this with all the names I have to botch and mess up. This is the Afterimage effect. You have to have a Vanguard with Shiranui for Counterblast, Soul Blast. You pay the cost. If you do, choose up to one of your other rear guards to the end of that turn. That unit and this unit get plus 3,000, and it also gains the Afterimage ability. So 2 potential grabs for the shoot back to hand. A lot of times I like to grab Kuroko to protect it so I can place it down again next turn. It's just my basic preference there with that. For that plus 3 as well, making him an 8k when he helps with the boost. And moving on to grade 1s, I run 4 Kurenai. This is the countercharge perfect guard with this deck. I really like it because you do counterblast quite a lot, and even through like first turn play, I can go through all of it. So this just helps with countercharge power later on. And I also run 4 Tempest Stealth Rogue Fuki. This, with Atoga Lord, is very key for a lot of your plays, for binding your opponent's cards, then taking care of them with cards like Hujin, and then, like I said, just your opponent not having any cards really to guard with when you go all out with Atoga Lord. And I also run 4 of the new Stealth Beast Gekson Okami. It's Afterimage, and its effect is Generation Break 1, rest this unit, choose one of your units. It gets plus 2,000 till the end of the turn. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards, bind it face up, and at the end of that turn, your opponent puts a card bound with this effect back into his or her hand. So another bind effect, and the plus 2 to one of your other units can help if you're guarding alone with a 9k. So definite 4 of. I also like the 7k boost just for that option. And lastly, to finish up the grade 1s, 2 Stealth Dragon Dreadmaster. This is another early game pressure card, especially for that discard if you make your hand less, making your opponent discard as well. And it's not Generation Break 2, so I definitely like making use of that. And that's it for the grade 1s. On to grade 0s. Stealth Beast Kuroko is still my favorite starter in the deck. I might even consider bumping Okami down to 3, and then putting in a second one of this, just in case it does get retired, because she is a key part of a lot of your drop zone placements for your opponent. So having a second backup of her is definitely important, so she might be a bump up to 2. And for the triggers, I run 12 crit, definite pressure with those. I would, if I had Noroi, he's in the Dominate deck right now, forgot to take him out, I'd put him in. For one of the vanilla criticals, but for Tobihiko for now. Definitely Torasada. So glad we got this card because of its countercharge ability and soul buildup, helps with the deck so much. And also for Samidari to finish up the 12 count. And if you had the effect, which is also in the Dominate deck, for Zashiki Hime, put that in as well, because it works well with the G-Guard version of her. But other than that, the big key play to remember with the deck is what I said before with the Break Ride and Shiranui, not missing the timing there, because with this and Suko Rakan limit effect, when you stride over it, you can basically cripple your opponent down to 3 cards in hand, and even this is a key kill play altogether, because you'll hit very big numbers with your columns. Your opponent will either guard their rear guard attacks. And another one that you might want to remember is Drachma with these cards as well. Can be quite crazy, because you can get off the Break Stride effect and then the discard, and then your opponent has to kill their Vanguard and bind 2. So if they don't have that much to use, Drachma could swing for game alone as well. So another consideration to take out for one of the singular ones would definitely be Drachma if you have that card, making this deck just even more crazy on its own. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Once again, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Until next time, Kira Qualia out.